Recording in progress.
Welcome, everyone. I am so delighted to have you back again today for another Fireside Chat. I have a new amazing guest with me today. I have Dawn Lawrence from the UK. Hello, Dawn.
Hello.
New Dawn. Oh my goodness, you guys are in for such a treat. And this is going to be delightful, but it's also going to be serious. Dawn is going to share a lot with us about the New Age, Old Deception, as you can tell from the title. But let's get started. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're joining us. But we're going to get to know Dawn, and we're going to see what she can share with us from her in-depth experience in the New Age movement. So, hey, Dawn, it's so good to have you here today.
So good to be here. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
timed. I believe he is. He's doing something so big out there and grand, and just all praise, glory, and gratitude to him, our Almighty Father Yahweh, Lord God.
Yes. Yeah, he is. And, we're in, I guess the Bible would call them troublous times. We're in some pretty precarious times in the world and in the church. And there's a lot out there. And so you're going to help us be able to identify what's true, what's false, where the counterfeits are, what we, to help us increase our discernment and awareness. But let's get started by just talking about how we know each other, because I'll let you share, because we're pretty new. It's a pretty new connection. So do you want to talk a little bit about how we know each other?
Yeah, sure. Well, our precious sister Stacey, I believe you became connected to her through another ministry online, and she invited you to our sisters group, and it just wasn't very long ago. It was around the time of Pentecost Shavuot, and from there our friendship has just evolved very quickly, and I believe that Father's doing a very deep and rich work. I'm blown away by what he's been doing in you the last 14 years, and your testimony is incredible. It also gives me further confirmation, confidence, and encouragement to know how much we're truly his, and to know his truth. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for all my sisters and how he's aligned me with my sisters all over particular parts of the world. It is just no coincidence, as we know. So so from that, we've been growing and just soaring, I believe, with him, for him, the last 6-7 weeks. It's beyond words in a way, because I just sense the quickness in the work. I do sense the increase of the timing with him. It's I'm feeling an intensity as well.
Yeah, it really has been, without a doubt, a supernatural orchestration of connections. And I think in the times and seasons we're in, not that I think it's always relevant, right? I think that's always relevant, but the closer we get to things drawing to a close, those connections and the work that he wants to do, and he's just going to organize that to perfection. And it's just been so evident to me that it's been divine. There are just things that he's done just in the last, like you alluded to, in the last 4 or 5 weeks, that I don't think any of us saw coming, and yet there's been a lot of things that have been accomplished, and so it's just been amazing to see him move, like that he can literally connect people all over the globe, and in a short amount of time accomplish some supernatural work for the kingdom. It's just mind-boggling. He's endless, and his resources are vast. So it's been a delight for me to just get to see him work in such an accelerated manner. And I think we're kind of in that time frame. And so on the back side of some of the other things he's had us doing, this is another thing that we felt him saying, hey, I already felt him saying, talk to Dawn about doing, the fireside chats, and unbeknownst to me, you'd already felt some drawings about sharing the things in some form or fashion with people about the New Age and your experiences there, out of love and concern for fellow believers. And so again, and very quickly, he kind of put this on our hearts and put it together for us to have these conversations. So so I'm excited. So Dawn, tell us a little bit about Dawn. Tell us about who you are, where you're from, and your background.
Okay, wow. I'm actually, I was born in the Welsh Valleys, in Wales, obviously, South Wales. And I was born in the 1960s, just so you got an idea of my age and the timing of the time I was birthed into this world. And, as a child growing up, I was born into a working class family. And the town I was born into at the time was a thriving mining town, and it was filled with Italian cafes because it had a deep Italian influence. The Italians came over pre-war and married some of the Welsh. So I grew up in that environment, very working class, very loving, a very close community. And I lived very near to my grandparents. We all lived very close together. And it was very normal in the sense of what I knew to be normal growing up. You played outside. There was no computers back in those days. My parents, my mother played with me, spent time with me. But when I reflect back now and look at my younger days growing up, even from a younger age of 5, 6, going to school, the very first book in school I had read to me in class by my teacher was The Hobbit. And to think back about that now, it's like, what? That in itself speaks for itself in relation to that book. So as my life evolved, and I always sensed, I knew I was very sensitive as a child, very much picked up on things. And I believe, looking back, that I was tormented. My life has been tormented by, the adversary. So even so, I grew up in a very loving family, and I had one elder brother. And it was all about you are what you do, you are what you have. And I was about the age 13, 14 when my mother said to me one day, she said to me, and I was so blown away with this, I only have a length of you. And I was like, what? She said, look, I bring you into this world. I bring you up to the best of my ability, me and your dad, but then you have to go out there and do your own thing. It's a big world out there. At that time in my life, I was very innocent, naive, really, really was. And I was like, I didn't get it. She was giving me liberty that she never had in her life because she had a very, very challenging life. So, I went to school, and I was never really in school. I didn't like school because my brother, 4 years older than me, was such a scholar in everything. I didn't have a problem with that at all, actually. I was great. It was great in the fact that he could steal the limelight, and I could just be some kind of a bit of a shrinking violet, I suppose, at the time, because I didn't know who I was. I didn't really know what career I wanted in my life, who I wanted to be. I just wanted to get out of school and work. So my very first position was a seamstress in a factory of 200 women, and I knew that I did not belong there, even though it brought in a good income for being in the valleys, and it was a good trade to have back in that day, and to be very grateful for. I knew I was going to find a way to escape, and as I go on to share about Father, how he showed me how many times he's been trying to come into my life. It even began in that sewing factory with somebody. And anyway, as I continued my life, preparing forward, I managed somehow, we have these dreams. So I was like thinking, I've got to get out of here. I've got to get out of here. And I'd had my first experience of falling in love, because we all want that at that age, and we want to feel loved and cherished and to have found the one, And back in those days where I lived, quite a few young women, well, girls really, they were 16 or so, were getting pregnant. It was just like, okay, it was that of that time. But I can remember thinking to myself, there's more to life, there's more to life. And so I had all these dreams that I wanted to live out. So I was on a quest, more or less, and somehow or other, when I say somehow or other, we know that everything's divinely orchestrated, even though we think we're in control. It was my mother who introduced me to my husband, my ex-husband now, but at the time he was going to become my husband. And it was through somebody she was working for, and he was the middle son. And I was sort of swept off my feet in a kind of roundabout way, because the other way to describe it is like being handed on a plate, because I wanted to be a landlady. I wanted to have a pub and be in pub management, because I began drinking, and cider. I was a cider girl, so cider was great for Dawn. It gave Dawn confidence, and the pubs and places I went to hang out in, I thought, I'd like to do this kind of work. Well, he was in the pub trade already, so this was birthed. This was the first sort of so-called dream birthed into reality. And I left home. I think I was 22, 23 when I left home, to go and live and work with him in this pub, not giving any thought that I was living in sin. My parents were old-fashioned, I would have called them back then, because my mother did not approve that I was going to be doing that. And even to mention about growing up, we were called Christians, even though I occasionally went to Sunday school as a young child, and I knew of the Lord's Prayer. I knew of the Lord's Prayer from school, but I didn't look at the Bible, and I certainly just thought of Christmas as Father Christmas, and to have gifts, and there was Jesus, but he wasn't in the forefront of the celebration. It was about writing out my list of Father Christmas more than anything. So when I look back and think of where I've come from, where I'm going, where I'm at and where I'm going, it's just like, whoa. So I got married, and before I got married, we'd run the pub for a while, and things began to change with the pub trade and the way things were turning out. And we'd saved quite a bit of money, so I decided to go to college and decided to become a florist. So this was like my second dream being ticked off, to have my own business. And I was like, I don't know, 26, 25 when I went to college. Next thing, I've got this flower shop, because my in-laws, my ex-in-laws, were quite wealthy. So they could provide for me perhaps what my parents couldn't. So I had this shop, and you could just picture a flower shop. I had a golden retriever. Oh, I absolutely do. So it was like the life I was living was just in flow with what I suppose many people may say, you know, you're manifesting. Well, along with that came a house. We bought a house, and we bought it sort of at the so-called right time before any sort of recession kicked in. And we made it, you know, converted it from a 2 bed to a 4 bed. And so that was another thing on my list. And so within a matter of, say, I don't know, 5 years or so, you know, all this reality was happening. And then what followed next was marriage. You know, we got married. And looking back, you know, I just share this as a little glimpse of how Father works. If somebody up there at the time had been trying to stop me from getting married, they were doing everything they possibly could. And I just didn't acknowledge the signs. I I just it was part of the tradition, I think, to be, you know, to become, you know, what you do and to get married and to have children. That was the done thing. And anyway, you know, that all came to pass.
Wow.
It all came to pass. And so by the age of 30, that is what, in a sort of short summary, that's what it played out.
Wow. The life of Dawn in 15 minutes or less, you know, like it's a short synopsis, but you know, you said a couple of things, Dawn, I think that kind of stood out to me. One, I loved how you were talking about, like, even as a seamstress, there were like, the Father was trying to get your attention. So there's like almost like a seed, right? We hear about seeds all the time. And the parable that always comes to my mind when we talk about seeds is the one where, you know, the different soils that they fall on. But I think because you alluded to that was the first time you recognized the Lord tried to get your attention. Like, there's not just a one-time seeding event. The seeds don't stop. Like, he'll continue to plant seeds and to plant seeds and to plant seeds. Like, he's relentless in that. So the fact that you're able to notice and observe at where you're at right now, looking back and seeing, oh, all the way back there, but it wasn't a one time or a one and done opportunity. There's a continuous pursuit. When we look back, you know, post encounter with him, post salvation, we look back and we're like, wow, you have been there all along. Like, we can finally see his activity and his attempts in the pursuit. But the other thing that you said, and I think that this is really interesting because you use this word and even alluded to what people would say manifesting, these dreams manifesting, and it's kind of that you're living this life in flow. And some of that is kind of this, you do hear that kind of language, especially like in the New Age arena, you hear a lot about the manifesting. But I would say this, because we do have, let me put it this way, we don't have the power to manifest our dreams, right? We can begin to believe we have the power to manifest our dreams, when really it's a work of the adversary to reinforce ungodly dreams by him helping to bring them together to make it feel like we're in control and we're powerful. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that's part of this allure, if you will, that we're going to kind of unpack and talk about. That's part of how this works is when we are in the worldly realm and doing things within what we feel is within our control, and we can feel like we're manifesting all of these things, it's really just the enemy partnering with the things in our heart that he knows will continue to lead us away from the Father and continue to create counterfeits in our lives. He will lavish manifestations of dreams to help us feel powerful and like we're in control of our life, in that we have our life in flow, everything working for us. Um, it's all a counterfeit. So,
Oh, absolutely.
you know, so tell us a little bit. You're at this place, your life is in flow. What changed?
Wow, my life hugely changed, and I married. I married someone who became a monster, and especially when he was drunk. And there's a saying in the valleys, I don't know whether it's said everywhere else, you've made your bed, you've got to lie in it.
Mm,
So I continued to sort of put up with the violence, and it was physical and emotional until there was one particular time when I was put in hospital. So
mm,
I didn't tell my parents at the time. I just tried to sort of forgive and just think, well, I'm married to him. But at the same time, it was like this explosion of my life. Like, yeah, well, you've picked him. And so the flower shop began to just start to sort of fade away a bit because they were building a retail outlet. It was just when retail outlets began to be built in the UK. And so
mm,
all the towns are being affected. And I just had a feeling I needed to look for another job. And to my surprise, there was this job advertised as a visual merchandiser for a textile company that was really big in the UK. It was Scottish and it was really growing. And I share all this because it's very relevant to the backdrop right now. So
mm.
I managed anyway. I had an interview and I got this job, and I was very grateful. However, I had to work away to train, and while I was working away to train, unbeknown to me, he was having affairs. So
Mm.
how I found out about this was one New Year's Eve, I was at a party that very year, and somebody turned up, and actually he showed up as well. He was just being awkward, and this person knew him, and she happened to say, "Oh," she said, "do you know that person? Because he's been seeing my friend, and he's got a wife that works away a lot." And I just said to her, "Do you know who his wife is?" And she said, "No." I said, "It's me." And it was just one of
Mm,
those moments where I was like, hooray, now I can leave him. He's committed
mm,
adultery. I got the proof. At the same time that this was happening, my mother had given up smoking. She'd been a big smoker for all her life, and she'd given up, and she'd become like, she just thought she had like asthma or something. But she went private to find out and get things sorted, and she found out she had 3 months left to live. She'd
oh
been
wow.
was in secondary stage lung cancer. This all
Mm,
happened like right at all at the same time. So obviously my mother was my priority, and I kept working, and I was broken. I was in pieces, knowing that my mother was going to die, and I obviously didn't want her to die. She was just 59 when she passed away, and I was 33.
wow.
Um, I left my marriage. I walked out of my marriage, and it didn't even end there because he just got violent again, and I ended up having to have an injunction on him. It was very stressful. So
Wow.
I just coped. I just somehow coped and kept moving forward. And this job that I had taken on, I was doing very well in. And because I was being recognized in the business, um, I was made into an area manager and then a regional manager. So this was my way out. I propelled forward in my work. I just got stuck into my career. And fortunately, in 2001, I relocated 5 hours up north. And when I look back now, I believe Father divinely orchestrated that to keep me alive,
Mm,
because I was married to a family. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but they were like the mafia. It's the only way I could describe it. And my mother, bless her, she didn't know that side of them. My
wow.
mother was a beautiful person. And
Mm,
what I witnessed play out through my marriage, through this family, I was meant to see, I was meant to experience it. So they were so-called churchgoers, they went on a Sunday, but what they did in between was just such an abomination to Father. I'm just like, what? Now I know. I can see it so clearly.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, the thing that's coming to my mind on is like, we just talked about these dreams that are manifesting in life in the flow, right? And what we don't realize is sometimes it can feel like, oh, this is all so good. Everything's going my way. I keep thinking of that Frank Sinatra
yeah,
song, I'll do things my way.
yeah,
Things are going my way. And really they were traps. Because they were counterfeits, they couldn't be anything other than traps. And
absolutely.
before you knew it, this whole, what felt like your dreams manifesting in your life in the flow, you were trapped in this situation, um, that shattered you, that broke you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To lose my
Wow,
mum.
that's a lot that's a lot at one time in your life.
So I was basically, I got divorced. Well, he wouldn't divorce me, but eventually got divorced. I left the marital home. I left the home and I left it. I didn't pursue the home. I just
Mm-hmm.
left it. So
Yeah.
then my mum died. It was like all together, like a nice, a nice little horrific bundle to off you go. But somehow I kept going. I think it was my roots, my grandfather, my grandpa being a miner who was called a grafter, always called me a grafter. He said, "You're a grafter. You're the grafter in that marriage." And I suppose being Welsh, I just call myself a Welsh grafter. So I can see that in the dawn that I was. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to brush it down and keep going. Yeah.
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 So I moved up to this place called Southport, which in the UK is a beautiful Art Deco resort that 100 years or so ago had a tram line running through the centre. Oh, a beautiful place to live, beautiful place that I was put. Thank you, Father. I was so grateful. And so, yeah, I was basically, I was headhunted for another job. So this position where this company, which was part of like my Silk Road, when I talk about my Silk Road, this was of the silk lining industry. They manufactured in this particular part of the UK, but they wanted to branch out into retail. And because of my background with this other company, I made a bit of a name for myself. So I was being asked, I was invited, did I want this position? So I was like feeling, yeah, let's do it. So I was part of a project which was an expansion plan. I think they wanted to open 25 stores, and they wanted to base it on a company called Crate and Barrel in New York. So
Mm-hmm.
um, as I began to implement this concept into the stores and obviously put my own innovation into it as well, um, in this little parade of shops where I was actually working round the corner, I became very tired. I was very, very fatigued. And I also began to get very strong tinnitus. And anyway, in short, there was a woman round the corner called Margaret who ran a health shop, and I became very good friends with her. And she recommended these energy pills called Trim Right. She said, "Oh, these will help you lose weight and give you energy." And she said, and they're all natural. So they were quite expensive back then. They were like 30 quid a tub. And I began taking these supplements because I couldn't get through my day. I was really, really fatigued. And the more I got to know Margaret, I got to find out that she was an astrologer and also a feng shui consultant, but she'd previously been in the corporate world as well. And I was intrigued because feng shui was like on my bucket list of something I wanted to do later in life. And astrology had always pulled me in from a young age as a child, reading in the newspaper. I'd been a big fan of a particular astrologer called Jonathan Caner. So we connected, So when I look back then, the devil was at work big time and
Mm-hmm.
continued, like, yeah, take those pills, they keep you going. And they did. They kept me going for like 12 years. I
Wow.
couldn't, I
Wow.
couldn't live without them. I was addicted to these energy pills, and you know, shame on me, but I was. I could not have
Mm.
gone through that time in my life, that chapter, without them. definitely,
Wow.
you know. So
Wow.
I just continued in my work, and my career began to soar. I just, people recognized me up there. It was like Father put me there for a reason, in terms of like to shine um, his beauty in the work I was doing. You know, the way I was
Mm.
putting colors together, the way that the merchandise would come in, you know, for the seasons. And yeah, I went from there. I got offered a position as a buyer for a really big company, and I didn't think I'd stand a chance in getting this position, but I got it. And I only played that part for about a year, but it taught me so much in terms of buying, negotiation. It was brilliant, and you know,
Mm.
I've no regrets, even though um, I remember people calling me certain things, you know, like, oh, she's a breath of fresh air, she's a pinball machine because she always bounces back, you know, or you're unstoppable. Well, this was these energy pills, right? So,
Mm.
you know, I just kept going and going, and the tinnitus obviously was interfering, and I I basically decided to have an operation in 2003. Um, I was advised, like, you're so young to have this problem. And I also was diagnosed with a condition in my 20s called autosclerosis, which is hereditary in the family. And it's quite a deep, when I say a deep thing to share, but it's, wow, it's powerful as well. I want to share in case somebody out there hears this, and it inspires them and resonates with them, is that I'd never heard of this, and it's to do with the stapes bone in the inner ear. And basically, over time, it's a disease, a degenerative disease that the bone basically rubs against a different part of the ear, and your hearing begins to fade away. And also, if you conceive, you would lose your hearing because of conceiving. That's what it does. If you give birth, you lose your hearing.
Wow.
It's like,
Wow.
you know, this is deep stuff. So anyway, it was very recommended that the success rate on this was really, you know, fine. And so I went ahead. I booked 3 days off work, thinking, oh, I'll go in, have it done. You know, it was like simple procedure, really, nothing complicated. I was like, okay. Well, 3 months later, I was having chronic vertigo, and the operation failed. My ear popped, so I lost all my
Mm.
hearing in my left ear, and the tinnitus changed frequencies. So not only did I went from having just say one frequency, I went to having multiple frequencies, which was horrendous. That's Dawn being born. Thought, right, well, I've got 2 years. This isn't going to beat me. Um, I began to take some medication to stabilize myself, and that's her physio, and off I went again. Work was great because by now I was soaring. I was taking on another job within design, and they were just very compassionate and understanding, and just said, look, it doesn't matter, just take time off until you're better, because we just want you to be well. So
Mm.
so that was great, you know. Um, but you know, amidst all that, I'd sort of fallen in love with someone, and yeah, I really had fallen in love with someone who was another monster, and it seems like, you
Mm.
know, picking out the monsters, and wow, oh, I was attracting them, you know what I'm saying.
Mm.
But anyway,
Mm.
I that part played out for about 8 years, and I was very brokenhearted through this person, and I put up with a lot again, you know. But I share this because again, it's all part of the backdrop that will just expand, and you'll get it later. And you know, I just continued to keep going, and bearing in mind, you know, I'd lost my mother. I still had my brother who was soaring in his career, and by now I was I'm trying to think how old I was. It was like I'm in my mid 40s. Um, so my father, bless him, he had he had a blackout in 2009 in December, and he had a brain injury, and he had compression of the spine, and he never walked again without a Zimmer. So he had to have carers 4 times a day, and this broke my heart because I'd always been
Mm.
a daddy's girl, and I was working, and I was trying to sort of visit Every month I'd go down for a long weekend, and every time I'd see him, oh, it'd break me. I would go upstairs and cry, and then I'd come down and try and be really tough, to keep him going. Um, I decided I think it was 2011, 2012, to move back to Wales, not back home, but back to somewhere local so I could keep an eye on him and keep working in another way, another pursuit of work, or always within design, um, which I continued to do. And even as I was doing this, the Lord was working, bringing other people in again, trying to save me, but I didn't get it. Dawn didn't get it. And so my daddy, bless him, my daddy lived to be 81, and he passed away in the February of 2013, and he was ready to go. And I was with him holding his hand, and it was beautiful to have a celebration of my father's life at the funeral, not so different to my mother. It was very hard to celebrate her life. I had the contrast of grief in a different way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I was really glad, not glad, obviously, that they went, but I'm so glad now that I can see now what I couldn't see then. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you want me to pause there before I go in, or would you like to say anything about that?
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, well, I'll just say grief is an interesting thing, right? And and just the nuances that it is different. And your experience also, I think it's interesting that my father also died in 2013. Like that just hit me as you were talking. I don't know why. I was like, my dad passed away in September of 2013. So I was like, wow, that's a new piece of your story and my story that I wasn't aware of, that had a similarity. And my dad, similar to your mom, he found out he had stage 4 cancer. He really only lived about 3 months after that. So it was kind of quick. But there's a difference in those experiences, I think, in what someone's life was, but how their life ended, all of those things. It's a different place of grieving and a different way of saying goodbye. So I think it's amazing that you are able at this point to notice and observe the nuances and the differences in those experiences within your own heart, as you move through it. Grief can be another one of those things that draws us in pain in general draws us into remedies for pain. So grief can be another thing that can, if not done in a way with the Lord and processed through with the Lord, can draw us into other solutions and other remedies to soften the pain, if you will. So I don't know if you experienced any of those as you experienced these losses, if that was part of the mix for you in, I don't know, where you were and what drew you into things apart from the Lord, or maybe even obstructed, this is coming to my mind, maybe even obstructed your ability to recognize him trying to save you, because grief can become kind of a veil to us as well. So I don't know, if you feel free to continue or to add any thoughts about that. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I now call it the gift of grief. Grief is amazing in many ways, and it's a part of life. So I definitely agree that there could have been an obstruction, and there were things I couldn't see. However, this person I just shared about, the relationship had ended, and he'd said to me, he said, "Do you think you were looking for something?" Because he knew I was searching, even when I was working and I was unstoppable. He just like, "What are you looking for?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "But there's something more." I just always believed there was something more. I didn't know what it was, and I certainly did not. I did not give Father a thought, right? I just didn't. I
Mm,
I'm so ashamed of that, but he knows my heart now. He knows, like,
mhm,
wow, it's beyond words, right? You understand in terms of
mhm,
when you're saved, and he's given us this free will to be saved. Oh, I'm just so grateful. So, you know, after my father passed away, um, I decided to move back into the house, into the cottage of my parents' home, and renovate it to get it put on the market. And I was exhausted. I was completely exhausted. I mean, it just like hit me, like I really needed some time out. Somebody said to me in the funeral, my auntie, she said, "Hey, love," she said, "the world's your oyster." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, both your parents have gone." It was like that final moment. Oh, yeah. I hadn't quite realized it like that. She said, "Now you can just go and do what you like." Because obviously I'd taken care of my parents to the best of my ability. And it must have been very hard for them to fall apart in front of me. Um, but I love them so much. I truly, truly love them so
mhm,
much. So yeah, I was
mhm,
like, okay. So I was renovating this house, and I share this again because it's all relevant. I decided to lay new carpet downstairs right through, and a friend of mine introduced me to this carpet fitter, and he was a really good fun at the time, and he liked country music. So I like country music. So
mhm,
so anyway, he would do line dancing in the room, and I'd be like laughing because I'd be thinking, oh my gosh, I used to do that up in Southport because on the weekend they'd have line dancing. So
mm,
anyway, we were having some fun together, and as he was sort of obviously doing the carpet, he invited me out on a date. I was like thinking, really? And I was just like giggling like a child, thinking, you know what? I think I'll go because I could do with a bit of laughter. So it was Easter Sunday, right? This is how Father works. We know, right? He said to me, "I'll pick you up after church." I thought he was kidding me. No, he picked me up after church and he took me to a restaurant. And as we began to sort of chat and everything, he he shared that he had a place in Texas, and he said, "Oh, it's big out there in God." And I'm like, "What? What did you say? Did you say God?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, where's this going?" So then he starts to tell me, that he's a big believer and he's born again and he's had this epiphany. And I'm like thinking, no, this is not my idea of a date. No, just take me home. I'm not interested. And I was really like put off a bit by it. And anyway, father was working big time, and I didn't see it again. I didn't see it until the following week. Um, oh my goodness. Um, my best friend in the valleys, Gwenda, we were born next door to each other. We grew up together. She got married, had twins, and her husband had left her. It was one of those times when things were really falling apart. And Gwenda she got these tickets to go to like a kind of reunion thing. It was back over in the places I used to hang out at back in the 80s, when I used to love 80s music and dancing to Shaka Khan and all that kind of thing. So I was so tired, I didn't want to go. And I didn't have to go, but I went. And that was the night. I blacked out and I hit my head. And I don't recall really what happened, other than, you know, I had a lump on my head, on the back right side of my head, lowest right side, and I was not feeling right. And a couple of days later, my auntie and uncle, who lived close by, took me to the hospital, and I had a scan, and they said I had swelling, and they just told me to just rest. But there was this new dawn emerging. There was a dawn that was just like, what the heck's going on with me? Something had so dramatically changed that I could no longer finish the house. I wasn't capable. I was I couldn't describe it at the time. I didn't have a clue what was going on. What I believe now that happened, um, there was an open door. There was a spiritual opening. People may call it transition, epiphany, um, spiritual awakening, all that kind of thing. I never knew those words back then either. I was clueless. But I remember Gwenda saying to me, what's wrong with you? You're so different. I said, I don't know. And anyway, I was getting concerned because I wasn't feeling right. So I went to have another scan, and this was a deeper scan, but they couldn't see anything. And then I eventually saw a neurologist, and she basically told me that she labeled me with chronic fatigue, she labeled me with burnout, and she told me I was a mystery. And she said, why don't you just go and live in the sun? I was like thinking, what? No, I've got to hit the ground running again. I've got to get back to work. I've got, I need to survive. So that wasn't meant to be. Was a father had obviously, when I say he'd orchestrated it, I believe he'd orchestrated it. That in the event of all this happening, I wasn't getting better. I was getting worse, and I was in so much pain that I was then put on morphine. And I was in bed this one night, and all I can explain was that my life was being shown to me in like a recording. And I was 47 years of age, and I was thinking to myself, I remember so clearly thinking, well, I've lived out all my dreams. Maybe this is the time for me to cross over. And I closed my eyes very peacefully. I wasn't afraid. But then when I woke up the next day, I was very grateful to obviously wake up. But all I could explain that happened was that the room and my heart, because the energy and the feeling came from my heart, and it went out into the room, and I just felt like a love that just bathed me and soaked me and filled me. And I was just, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was just like, what the heck's this? This is amazing. Oh my gosh, I'm healed. Oh wow. And I was just overwhelmed by it. And then obviously it went. And at the time I thought, oh, it was my parents. Oh, it's my mom and dad. They'd come back to just comfort me because I'm so ill. I didn't give God a thought. I didn't give Father a thought. You see, this is how it was playing out. So instead, he was like, I'm here, my child. I'm here. No, I didn't get him again. No, sorry, Father, I didn't get you. What came from that was, oh my gosh, he must have thought, I mean, who knows what he thought, but he allowed me to go on a journey deep, deep, deep into the New Age. Now, just to say that obviously from a child, I was born into the New Age because I was born into the pagan ways. I was born in the 1960s. So, from my understanding, that was like the so-called hippie days began. That was when Glastonbury began in the UK. All kinds of music, frequency stuff started happening that I now know that I didn't know then, so to speak, right? So who knows what was being programmed into Dawn at a young age.
Right.
My parents and my brother really influenced my life with music because he was 4 years older than me. He introduced me to groups like the Eagles, Fleetwood Mac, Pink Floyd, Supertramp. I appreciated all those kind of music. So those musics are no good. But now I know that. I didn't know that then. And even what I was listening to. Anyway, so I share that because I think it's really, really relevant for all of us to realize the generation that we're born into and the frequencies we're born into and the trends that are set for that age, the colors, the symbols, everything is just all pre-planned. All pre-planned, I very much believe. So I kept waking up with Feng Shui in my head, and I was thinking, well, maybe now's the time to learn Feng Shui because I can't go to Italy, I can't travel. Maybe I'll learn Feng Shui. And my journey began. I embarked on Feng Shui, and then, oh boy, did it evolve. It evolved where I then began a course on dowsing, and then I was looking to relocate because I wasn't going to stay in the valleys because I'd escaped. And so I drove to the coast in Wales. Well, yeah, in Wales. And I thought I was going to end up living by the sea, but no. And as I was driving back home, my car veered off. It was like it got pulled, literally pulled to the sign of Glastonbury. And I was like, well, why do I want to go Glastonbury? I've only ever been there once, and I don't want to go there again. I could recall this witchy shop right in the corner of this place that wasn't good, right? So I arrived in Glastonbury, and I'm not kidding you. I was literally sucked into this soul matriarch temple place, um, known as the Christ. I was clueless. I walked in there. I was met by this woman who invited me to sit in a pyramid, a metal pyramid. I sat in there, and I sat on this seat that had this kind of placemat on it, and a way that it had all kinds of things in it to produce energy. And I began to feel like, whoa, this feels good. I'm feeling good. Clueless to what I was doing. She has got this piece of sacred geometry around her neck, this beautiful piece of jewelry, and it's shining and filled with crystals. And then, of course, as I'm sitting there and just meditating on the music and the frequency, she comes over then because she has to sell. It's all part of selling. So as well as going to a retreat, it's like, you can buy a pyramid, you can buy this seat, you can buy the cover, and this necklace, we've got all these different types available. Anyway, I share this because Glastonbury showcases itself as a haven of healing. And I was sucked into it. I deeply sucked into it. I tried all kinds of healing there. And I ended up relocating to Wiltshire. And this was 6 months later. I found this place, and I would definitely believe again, Father brought me here. And I'm in this place. I've been living almost 7 years. I call it my upper room because I'm in the top floor of a block of apartments, and it's been very isolated. It's been introspective. It's been painful, and but I was part of the New Age, and I began to try all different things because I was desperate to heal myself. So I thought that Feng Shui could heal me and also give me a career. And I know many other people were thinking that too because I met them. And
wow.
So this is the aim of the devil.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's so wicked.
yeah.
And I realized, there were elements of Feng Shui that I believed were in sync with my past career and helped me to design and merchandise things. So I went on all kinds of journeys to try and heal myself. And I will just name a few because I'm aware of time, and I'll just obviously share how he saved me. Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be good. And then this is my thinking at this point in time is that share some of the things that you were drawn into briefly, and then talk a little bit about. Actually, I'm wondering, Dawn, if we'll end with the things that he drew you into, and then I want to invite the listeners back, or the things that you were drawn into in your quest, your quest for healing, a career, all of those things. And then we may then end this one. They've gotten to know you. They've gotten to hear all these different facets that present themselves to us when we're seeking out that present as counterfeits. And then I think on our next chat, let's talk about, okay, how did the Father bring you out of that? And then let's talk about each of those in more detail, or some of them anyway, in more detail about what the draw is, what the allure is, and how we recognize when they begin to present themselves. Not just the things but also the things in us that are drawn to them, why we get drawn to them and sucked in the first place. Is that reasonable for you if we end after you present all of them, and then we'll start on with the new dawn? So we kind of close this one with the old dawn, and we'll start the next one with the new dawn. Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So go ahead and share your kind of the things that you got involved in.
So there were so many things. I mean, there were so many evil, wicked things I got involved with. First of all, obviously, I've mentioned Feng Shui. Then I was taken to Italy and on a sacred tour where I witnessed a regression, not on myself, but somebody else was regressed by an Egyptian priest using an ankh. That was my first experience of knowing of the Egyptian ankh. Then I was also connected to, I witnessed somebody being attacked in front of me by a spirit. This person was an international dowser and a very sort of, high status in that. And well, for me to witness that in front of her, it was just so embarrassing for her. I was very calm and collected about it. I was just like, I don't know, I just somehow managed to cope. Um, it was her that I witnessed be regressed. And after a regression, I actually witnessed her persona change about 3 or 4 times on a train journey um, from Milan to Verona. Um, it was just insane. When we got to Verona, we were going to this place where she was given a talk on with this woman who ran this business. But this person also was a Reiki healer, and this person was very intrigued by me and wanted to offer me a Reiki healing. So I got on the bed and I just allowed this healing to be done. And I felt great when I came off the bed, and I thought maybe this was going to be another career. Maybe Reiki was the answer, because I really appreciated the way of the healing. So I embarked on Reiki, and it almost killed me. Almost killed me. I'm not kidding you. I believe it almost killed me, even though it probably didn't. But I felt like I was dying, put it that way. I actually my whole body shed a layer of skin. And people were saying, you're going through a spiritual awakening. I didn't know what any of this stuff was. I was clueless. I continued to keep going, and, I was being sucked into all kinds of different things. And this area I live in is a crop circle area, very well known, in the UK in the summer. So I began to visit crop circles, and they're so beautifully created, and obviously everything's sacred geometry. So there's an activation that takes place when you go in these. And I began to obviously hang out with a certain type of people, alternative, so-called spiritual, new age. I didn't never class myself as new age because I thought of hippie, but new age is so vast. Like there's new age, there's a new movement as well. So I went into crystal healing. I embarked on light language, astral travel. I even partook in ceremonies for moon, sun worship, soul astrology, which Ben told me I was at my Chiron return. And because I was born at a particular date, it was to do with the Lion's Gate that connected me to the White Lions, the Timber Party, connected me to various star systems. It was insane. I found myself being connected to people all over the world with the Earth grid. Because we have the internet, I was branching out to connect to more people. So the devil was having his heyday with me. I was just like, oh yeah, try this, try that. Everything I was thinking, well, maybe I'm to heal in different ways, and I can help people heal in different ways. And this is so dangerous. And I kept moving forward to the best of my ability until to the point where I thought this was the career at last, to become a heart intelligence coach, because it was all to do with love and to do with the heart. And I'd gone on quite a few heart retreats, and I thought, yeah, this is it. Now, believing that this was all holistic healing, because it's under that umbrella. What is holistic healing? It's, it looks at the whole. It looks at the whole of the person rather than say, you've got, like the wound, right? The bump on the head. Just look at the bigger picture. And, healing in a natural way. Well, a lot of people say New Age, they call themselves, they say that they are God, that there's one God and that God dwells in them. And he's the one source. That's what they believe. It is just absolute, it is rubbish, right? It's so evil. It's so deceiving. And, I didn't know any difference. I really didn't know any difference. And a lot of these people I met, whether they were teachers or whether they were just participants in the classrooms that I were in, a lot of these people were really, really lovely people who were desperately seeking the same way that I was. Um, the whole crystal kingdom for me at the time is very real, or was very real, sorry. And I had experiences with crystals and consciousness that is way beyond. I mean, it is crazy that the consciousness of the crystal could really manifest something. I even changed my name to Aurora by a crystal called Aurora Quartz. I mean, this is insane. But the amount of possession that you are possessed, you are literally possessed. You're possessed by the devil. Anything that is not of the light and the love of our beloved is that of the devil. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he seeked and saved me. He gave me that choice. He gave me the free will. And hallelujah, because there are so many, there's so many things out there. And where I actually live, just finish on this part as well, I had to be told I live in a piece of sacred geometry called the Wessex Astrum that resembles the St. David's Star and is a 550-mile circumference. And it's created along sacred sites. For example, I live in the center of the vortex. I live in the vortex, and I live 40 minutes from Glastonbury, 40 minutes from Stonehenge, and 40 minutes from Avebury. This is real, right?
Wow.
And this is powerful. This is powerful. And he's shown me the dark, I believe, in this present time we're in, to expose. I never thought for one minute that I would want to do this. I only want to do what he wants me to do. This isn't my will, it's his will be done. Because some of these people, of course, they know they're of the dark, and it's deliberate. You know, like the person who went away with dowsing to Italy. She said to me, I'm a witch. And I think she wanted to scare me, but I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know she was a witch. And I didn't allow that to manifest or scare me. I was like, oh, well. But I could see that was her intention, right? So what happened was, these people and this time in my life between 2014 2018, the dark was trying to steal my heart and my soul and my life.
Yeah. And there's a lot, the Bible tells us in these days, right? There's a lot of false light out there right now. And because it's so alluring and so deceptive, it's, until you know the true light, it seems like light, right? So I think it's beautiful that the Father, in his wisdom and in his perfect timing, he revealed true light, to where all of a sudden you are able to see that what you thought was light is really darkness. And I'm so excited, Dawn, for the listeners. I'm so excited that there may have been new terms that you threw out there today that they're like, what is she talking about? But all the subtle things that allured you into those things are out there and operating. They're even operating within the churches. And so as we move into the new dawn, which I'm very excited to explore that, kind of see where all of this quest, you're seeking, where it landed you. And the Father is so true to his word that when you seek, you will find. So you did find, but it was through the seeking and into dark places before you found the true light. I'm excited for the listeners to learn what all of these things were, how they drew you in, what they're about, things that they can watch and listen for within their own hearts, the things that allure us, right? But also within symbols and language and just the things that may present themselves as temptations to them, so that they can be aware and increase their discernment in these days. Because I think the deception There are many, many, many deceptions out there today, and growing. There will be more. And the more that we can be in tune to our own hearts and honest with our hearts for what our hearts are really seeking, and recognizing the things in our own human nature that can ensnare us, and are aware to guard our hearts, just the increase in that awareness can keep us on the right track and prevent falling into these great deceptions. So I just thank you for being so vulnerable and authentic and sharing who you are and your journey, and how you got trapped in these things. And we look forward to hearing how he rescued you. So
yeah, me too. And I
appreciate
just want to say on just ending with this is that our wounds are our greatest gifts.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So true. Well, Dawn, I'm going to say goodbye to our listeners, and then, obviously inviting them back, because we're not done. We're going to continue this discussion, this conversation. You're just a wealth of insights and information into this dark place that seems like light. And I think that's the thing that is so important for believers to understand, is there is a lot of false light. And I'm grateful that you're here to give us the contrast between those two and help us to see more clearly. So listeners, I thank you for being here. I thank you for joining us. I invite you back, because we're gonna go deeper into some of these, all the things you heard Dawn talking about, some that may feel far-fetched, some may be new terms you've never heard of, but we're going to explore some of this in deeper measure and hear about how the Father came and rescued her out of all of this. So come back, join us again. And I just, as always, thank you for being a part of the chats with us. And until the next time, we bless you. And bye for now. Thanks for listening.